Good evening, everyone. This is a regular council meeting for Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. Starting off with the land acknowledgement, we would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Acadia First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all rise for the playing of O Canada? Thank you, everyone. Moving on, approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? I see Councillor Patty Durkee. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to add the item Hanukkah to the agenda, please. H-A-N-N-U-K-A-H.
All right, we'll add that to item 8.5. I believe you did the same last year.
I probably did.
Yep, Hanukkah. So we'll add that item 8.5, Hanukkah. And I apologize, I'm not going to spell it out loud. Any more additions or deletions? Councillor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to add governance training to our agenda.
All right, so we'll move that to item 8.6 under new business, governance training.
Yes.
Any more items? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 5, declarations of conflict of interest. If there's any conflicts of interest during any items, please let me know, or I'll let the Deputy Warden know that if there's any in there that I'm going to declare a conflict in, and the recording secretary will note that in the minutes. Item number 6, approval of the minutes. You all have them in your package. What is the wishes of council? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 9th, 2021, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting, September 22nd, 2021, the public hearing, October 14th, 2021, the Committee of the Whole meeting, and October 27th, 2021, the regular council meeting.
Okay, a motion on the floor to accept those minutes. I have a seconder, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Is there any discussion on that motion? No. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one comment, and it's just my own personal preference. The public hearing, the statement of purpose in the minutes, I'm just wondering if maybe next time it could be added as to what the statement was for. Is that something we could do? When I jumped on that, I was just so people know what it was, that's all, if that's okay. I don't mean to be picky, I wasn't sure myself, and I was going to have to go back and
No, this is exactly where you state that.
Okay.
That issue that you may have, whether it's corrections,
Nope.
errors, omissions, anything like that, spelling, punctuation even.
Other than that, everything was great. I just, when I was reviewing it and the statement of it just said you made the statement of purpose. I was just curious as to, when I was reading it at the time, it just clued into me that I didn't really know what it was. So for someone that may have been reading it yeah. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 7, old business. 7.1, recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. 7.1.1, agenda documents. You all have that in your package. What is the wishes of council? Deputy Warden.
Yeah, I'll move that the municipality municipality of the District of Yarmouth have staff do a full review of council procedural policy C-028.19 and bring it back to council for review.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 7.1.2, street lighting policy S-088-98. What is the wishes? Deputy Warden, you have the floor.
Right, I'll move that municipality of District of Yarmouth have staff undertake a review of street lighting policy S-088-98 and make the suggested revisions with improvements, including removal of the council letter of support caveat.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 7.1.3, date of December meetings. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth move the December Committee of the Whole meeting to December 16th, 2021 at 2:30, followed by regular council.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 7.1.4, Nova Scotia Federation Municipalities Letters of Congratulations for the new President and Vice President. Councillor Patty Durkee.
I will move that we, council, send letters of congratulations to the new NSFM President Mayor Amanda McDougall and Vice President Mayor Brenda Chisholm Beaton.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
It's not particularly about the motion, but I just want to quick, since it's in there about NSFM.
Absolutely.
There was an email that came out to you today about a reception, a holiday reception, and it would be greatly appreciated if you would attend, but also respond to say whether or not you're going to be attending. It's on December 6th at the Grand Hotel. And just a little addendum is that I am no longer on the board of the NSFM.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Actually, that was appropriate for that. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 7.1.5, mandatory COVID-19 vaccine policy. You all have that in your package. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth approve the COVID vaccination policy C-0810-21.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a second? by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 8, new business. 8.1, the CAO's report. You all have in front of you the report that CAO put forward. Is there any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam CAO. I just have a question about the sidewalk tendering, because we haven't had an update on that. So the tenders were received and opened, and could you give us an update on where we are with that, please?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Durkee, the Director of Municipal Services and Director of Public Works are working with the consultant right now, analyzing the proposals. There were some technical questions around the low bid and confirming whether or not they actually meet the specifications in the tender document. So they're working now to kind of finalize those details and make sure everybody's on the same page in order to provide a recommendation to council, which will be in December.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? No, that's quite all right, Councillor Durkee. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under diversity, equity and inclusion, as we had discussed earlier, and I can't find exactly where that was, but here it is. Training was arranged for council and staff, which was held separately, and I'm just wondering about, we had not completed that training and wondered if that has been scheduled to finish with Golakar.
So I had pinged the Director of Corporate Services on that late last month, and it's my understanding she's working with your trainer to find a date.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think it was in this Madam CAO's report, but I would just like to acknowledge and thank staff for the hard work of getting the 4 new flagpoles erected and flags flying as I saw them come in today. I think they look great, and I look forward to getting that 4th one filled with the first thing that gets to go up there. Thank you.
Go ahead, Madam CEO.
So the 4th flagpole, it's my understanding that we will fly the First Nation flag there unless there's an application for an equity-seeking group. And we have the First Nation Grand Council flag. It got 4:30 before we could finish putting the flags up. So, and Darlene had been away this week on training. So the flag is here, and tomorrow it'll be up, and so the poles will all have their proper flags on them.
All right, since there's no more comments and concerns, I entertain a motion to accept the CAO's report as presented. Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton to accept the CAO's report as presented. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.2, site plan approval, PID number 901-83062. You all have that in your package. What is the wishes of council? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you have the floor.
Right, given that we had a presentation from staff, and given that the application meets our municipal criteria, and given that there were some environmental concerns, but again, it's common that that's a provincial, federal area, and we don't typically delve into the environment issue at Modi. I move that the municipality of District of Yarmouth uphold the site plan approval as is and as was presented.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Counselor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it was a great presentation by all three individuals, and I do share a number of the concerns around the amount of noise that 40 dogs would provide in a small community. I have dealt with the SPCA and the dog bylaw before, and there was a little resolution to that, so I have some pretty high concerns about what that amount of extra traffic in the animals being in the community, along with something that Daniel Allen said with the amount of the kayaking on the nearby river in the evening and throughout the night. So I'm struggling with the decision. It's 100 feet from the nearest residence, and we know that we have other kennels in the community that have much bigger, that are much farther away from other residences. There was clear concern from some of their neighbors that were here this evening, and I'm not taking that lightly. Thank you.
Is there any more comments from council? Counselor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement with, I agree with Nick. I'm having a little trouble with this one. I was all right with it. I think most of us have pets. Most of us have dogs. And we've probably used a kennel once or twice. I know I have. But I also know that the kennels I've used have been farther away from the residences than this one is planned. And until he mentioned the 40 dogs, as much as I hate to say that, I really was 40 dogs. That's a lot. That's a lot of riling up if one gets riled. And so I do have concerns about the noise. The noise is my concern for that area. Anyways, that's just my comments. I guess I just wanted to have them heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor Outen. There you go.
I
You have the floor.
Fixed it myself. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the presentation was good. I think our, staff did a very thorough job on what they were supposed to do, and, following all the guidelines that are set out and rules and regulations that we have. And I welcome new people to our community. That was exciting in and of itself to know that there are people who are moving here. And, from their presentation and reading through their comments, I would hope that, what they're saying and, the level of care and training that they have and what they've done, up to this point will follow through. And if Department of Transportation doesn't allow the driveway, then, they'll figure that out. And hopefully we have mechanisms in place that, if they don't follow the rules that are set out for them, that we step forward and, try to mediate that. Thank you.
Counselor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So actually, Councilor Hurlbert spoke about the driveway. That's one of my biggest concerns. If that gets turned down because it's directly across from the highway, that means they are still approved to use their original driveway, which is even closer to their neighbor's yard. I wish we knew the answer to that question before making a decision. Again, noise. I think everyone has the right to peace and quiet in their own home. We may be okay by the MPS and LUB standards, but small business in a small community, it has to be right, and I'm not sure if you can control 40 dogs. They spoke very well in the policies and procedures that they set forth, but I don't know if you can fully control 40 animals.
Counselor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. The operation that they're talking about, they're very experienced in this type of work. The 40 dogs, yes, it seems to be a huge number, but I believe the way they explain things and and their experience, whatnot, I believe they will be able to keep things under control some. As for the amount of traffic on that highway, I know there's a lot of traffic there, regardless if there's a doggy daycare there or what it is. There's a lot of traffic that goes by that highway. And in the springtime, as the kayak season, the Gasbro season comes up, there's even more, and there's lots of noise there now that I don't know if people have complaints about that type of noise. So I don't know. I think they've got a good plan and to do what they want to do, and if they don't follow the rules, then we'll have to deal with it at that time. Thank you.
Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would, first of all, would agree with Councillor Cushing that that is in a very busy location. I know a lot of people use the Greenville Road to get to Highway 103, so it's a fairly busy corner as suggested, and it's already noisy, and maybe the applicants have no idea about the fishing that goes on there, which again, they said, yeah, it's noisy at that time. So I looked through the applicant's previous business, and they are pretty thorough in what they do, and I would hope that the idea of 40 dogs would be rare, because I too at that point would have some major concerns about the noise of 40 dogs, and being a dog owner, I would have major concerns about 40 dogs being together in one location and everybody getting along. That being said, they appear to be very well trained and are certified. So to add to that, again, if we have issues, I'm not concerned about the pollution issue. I think that, like anybody else, they're going to scoop the poop, and like the rest of the people who all have dogs around that whole lake, will take care of that. And if they follow the rules, then I think that will be okay. I purposely asked Roger about noise complaints from other businesses, because we do have quite a few of them in the neighborhood. I know Trevor and I have one on our borderline district, and I've never heard anybody, and it's close to other houses, very close as a matter of fact, and I've never heard an issue. So yes, as Councillor Hurlbert said, I'm like to be welcoming to these people who have come and welcome them to our community. Unfortunately, they even said they hadn't really met their neighbors, which is a shame that they hadn't had that discussion prior. But I will be supporting this motion.
Is there any more discussion? If not, I'd entertain a question. Question being called on the motion, signify. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Contrary vote of 5-2. Motion is passed. Would you like, Councillor Allen, Councillor Hilton, would you like your names recorded in the meeting minutes? Okay, item 8.3, request for decision regarding energy audits. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Director of Finance has submitted a request for decision to Council regarding an important piece in your strategic plan, and that's around improving the use of green energy and lowering our own carbon footprint. So we had submitted expressions of interest for a few projects to the province, and we got invited to submit a full application on 2 of the projects. So energy baseline audits on municipally owned and community owned halls, and energy baseline audits and solar opportunities at Cape Forshue. In order to take full advantage of the invitation to apply, we need a commitment from Council of $5,000 per project, which would come out of the 2022-2023 budget.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
So given that this type of work's outlined in our strategic plan, and I think we're all in agreement with it, certainly, and this will allow us to leverage funds from other organizations I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth approve both of the projects, or approve both of the applications, commitment of $5,000 for each project in the 2022-23 fiscal.
Motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Councillor Hurlbert. Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor. Your mic was flashing first, so my apologies for that, Councillor Hilton. Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the options are approve one, approve both, sorry, approve neither, approve only one, and then commit to a different level of funding. So the number 4 would be, we would just approve less than the 5,000? Is that what that means?
Yes, but that would effectively mean we couldn't move forward.
No, yes, I understand that.
Yep.
And then if these projects do move forward, I'm assuming that would mean our Green Energy Committee would kick into gear and be doing...
It depends on how the opportunity to do the work is framed by the province, Councillor Hurlbert. So the municipality of Yarmouth could undertake the recommendations that will come out of this work independently.
Okay.
But depending on how the relationship with Nova Scotia Power is structured as this moves forward, it could require the Joint Green Energy Committee to meet, because they are that's the body that kind of selects and advances projects that fit under the old ComFit program, which was a mechanism to sell green energy to Nova Scotia Power. So it will depend on how the province structures the relationship with the power utility.
Okay, and do we know when we would know if we receive approval?
It's a great question. It will be in the new year. I'm confident that we will know long before you set your rates in May, so we would know for sure whether or not we're moving ahead with this before you set your rates in May.
And this 10,000 would come out of the 22-23 budget, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Nick Hilton, you now have the floor.
Thank you. This is a question for the CAO, I guess. Just looking for, obviously no Kate Forshew and what that would mean there. Can you give me a little bit more information on what the second $5,000 is for and which community buildings we would be looking at, or how community would apply to have a building looked at?
Yep, so in the package, there are a number of letters of support from some of the community groups that own buildings, and those are groups that you typically fund on an annual basis to help with their activities. So these are energy audits. So basically, the consultants would go in and they would do an analysis on the use of energy in those buildings, and they would provide recommendations for improving either the type of energy used or the volume of energy used. It's my understanding that council would have a fair amount of control over whether or not you would implement those recommendations and how and when you would implement them. Because you can imagine, you know, there's a number of buildings included in the first project, which is our buildings and community-owned buildings, and you would likely want to schedule any implementation of those recommendations. Does that answer your question, Councillor Hilton?
Yes, thank you.
Are you finished, Councillor Hilton? I do have one comment on the motion that's currently on the floor. I do have, I guess it'd be a few questions in regards to adding Cape Forshew to this, because in there it said solar opportunities. Number one, that area is very foggy. It's usually the last to clear out in Yarmouth County. And number two, it's a heritage building, which I'm wondering if that would affect being able to put either solar panels on the roof or something else in regards to aesthetics, and would, since it's being the heritage building, would that be allowed? I understand the need to do an audit of the energy use in the building, but to me, since it's a tourism site, that's a very sensitive area to be doing anything drastic there. That's my opinion. Now, I'm not sure what will come out of the audit, but I'd be real leery of, in regards to putting up a solar panel farm or even anything on the roof or something to change the looks of that property. I would be concerned about that.
So you're right, anything that would happen to the exterior of the building that is part of the Heritage Registry would have to comply. But that's the purpose of the audit. So if you look at the language, it's to explore solar opportunities.
Yes.
So I realize Cape Frechou is probably the foggiest location in the district of Yarmouth, but we are still within the banana belt in Nova Scotia. So we'll see. It's to find out if there's opportunities. Cape Frechou is one of our assets that does consume a lot of energy. And so if we can reduce energy costs at that asset, it frees up dollars for other municipal programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I say that, I would hate to see the landscape of that area change, because let's face it, when that ferry runs next year, that's the first place of the tourists see that are coming off the boat, and first impressions mean a lot. I'd be real leery of any drastic changes out in that area. Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just another question to the CAO. I finally found the list. Can other organizations be added to the list at this point, or is that list finite?
I would have to double check.
How did we end up with this list?
So I really don't know the answer to that. I would have to double check. I think the baseline is community halls that are part of our annual grant program. I don't know if those are the only properties included, or if there are properties that are funded annually that are not included. But I see where you're going with this, and I can absolutely inquire to see if the number of buildings can be increased, and if so, what are the metrics for including that? I can absolutely get that answer for council. I
know one with a relatively large roof that uses an extreme amount of energy, so it would be an interesting development. Thanks.
In the municipality of Yarmouth? Not saying it's out of the question. I hear where you're coming from, absolutely.
Councillor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The audits and solar opportunities, I think is a great idea at Cape Frechou. I'm not too concerned about the amount of fog that that is there. My main concern would be, and I hope this is part of the audit, is the amount of wind that comes there. What type of effect would it have on those solar panels in wind? So I'm assuming that probably part of that audit would take that into consideration.
Well, it's my understanding when energy consultants are looking at a particular context, they're taking into account all of the dynamics in order to determine which form of green energy is the best. So we'll leave it to the professionals for sure.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure that was part.
So if there's no more discussion, I entertain a question on the motion. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Item 8.4, request for decision re the sand and salt shed building. Madam CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Council, as you're aware, part of the work you're doing in the business park required us to move our former temporary storage coverall building from the Hebron Business Park to the maintenance complex. And so we had done a little bit of analysis in terms of looking for some efficiencies or improvements in effective service delivery through winter maintenance. And what we've determined is that the model we're currently operating under is the best model. So I'm prepared now to make a recommendation to council that Delmar Construction be engaged for the construction of the foundation required to hold the coverall building, including the additional cost for a total of $61,733 plus the non-refundable HST.
Deputy Warden, you have the floor.
So given that things are happening in the in a good way out at the industrial park, and that we need to move the salt shed. I'll move the municipality district of Yarmouth, move ahead with the project immediately, and also award the contract for the installation and foundations for the salt sand coverall building to the lowest bidder, Delmar Construction, the amount of $61,733 plus HST.
Motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you. I was just writing some notes so I don't lose my train of thought. Thank you. I understand that we are moving forward in the business park, and we sold some lots, and that's why we had to move the salt shed. I feel like we're between a rock and a hard place on November the 24th, and trying to award a contract to get something done that, in my opinion, should have been done months ago. And because we have waited, we end up paying another $4,610 because of the increased charge from when it was originally, the quote was originally given to us. So that's a concern. And I know that the $61,000 does not include the erection of the salt shed. Do we know how much that is going to cost?
Approximately $5,000.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, through you to the CAO, do you know how much we had allotted in the budget for the pad? I thought it was around $45,000?
So $45,000 was what we had estimated in the overall $155,000 budget for the work to provide for the developments in the business park, which included moving the salt sand building. So it definitely came in above the forecast for sure, but under the global allotment for the work in the business park, we are still well within the overall budget.
Okay. And do we know when this will be completed and when the building will actually be erected and we'll be able to put salt in it?
So as you can read there, the Director of Public Works has confirmed that Delmar is ready to come as soon as they receive approval from the municipality. It's going to probably be about a month to get it done. We do have temporary arrangements made. We have salt, we have sand to deliver our services. Coverall can come and put the cover on as long as there's not windy days. Even if it's snowy, they can come as soon as the foundation is ready. So that can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Very good questions, Councillor. Is there any other comments, concerns, questions? Hearing none. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.5, Hanukkah. Councillor Patty Durkee, you would ask to have this placed on the agenda. Therefore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hanukkah. Anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know that the Festival of Lights, otherwise known as Hanukkah, begins on Sunday night, the 28th, and lasts for 8 days. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all the Jewish residents of Yarmouth County a very happy Hanukkah. And that being said, along with our diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would like to make a motion to include Hanukkah decorations in the interior of the municipality of the District of Yarmouth during Hanukkah, please. And that means that there would be a menorah, which is a candelabra, that would be placed inside and lit each day over 8-day period, and I would be willing to donate that.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Patty, Councillor Durkee, you still have your mic on? You wish to speak? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. Moving on, item 8.6, governance training. Counselor Lauren Cushing, you had asked to have this on the table. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I believe it would be, since it's our year number one is just completed for our new council, and I think it's a good idea myself or councils once in a while to take some training on governance and rules of the engagement, etc., and making motions and whatnot. So I think it'd be good if we could have staff come up with some type of plan in the new year where we can have some time to have a day that we can go through this training type.
Is that a motion, Mr. Chair?
Was that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
Okay, could you please repeat the motion?
I'd like to make a motion that staff look into a date in the new year for governance training for all our councilors to attend.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Do I hear a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Before I move ahead, I'm going to pose this question to the CEO. There's a motion on the floor to move ahead, but there is no date in regards to councillor training. I think you're going to elaborate on that, are you not?
I have a question for clarification, but I'll share what I think I understand the direction in the motion is that to find a date in the new year and work the logistics out with council. So a date to be determined, but in the new year, which I would interpret to be January or February.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Yep. And so, if
no,
I could
go
just,
ahead.
well, Mr. Chair, thank you, through you to Councillor Cushing. Did I hear you say, Councillor Cushing, it's not in your motion, but did I hear you say you had particular interest in a focus around parliamentary procedure? Did I hear you say that, making of motions?
On governance training,
Okay, yep, yep.
I think that's actually a great idea, because anything that I can learn in regards to parliamentary procedure, I know there's a lot of things that I don't do that is not proper as per Robert's rules. However, it is the chair's prerogative to allow some free discussion, which I do allow, and I'd like to know the thresholds and things like that when it comes to parliamentary training. And I think that's a good idea, and I think that's something that we all could benefit from. I believe I've taken one course about that quite a while ago now, actually, and as anything, I strive to do my job better, and I think something like that will certainly improve myself and others. Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Cushing, for bringing that forward. I did some research last week on some books and stuff that I could read, and because it's not until after I leave this room, after a council meeting or committee of the whole, and I think, oh, I might have been able to do this way to make it happen quicker, faster, better, not at all. So I think, things like notice of motion and, amendments to motion, I think it's a great idea. I'm looking forward to learning more.
Absolutely, and if I'm not mistaken, Madam CEO, that would currently be a line item in our current budget for council training, and that's certainly where something like that would fall under, correct?
That's right, yep. So there's an annual allotment to follow along with your policy on training. So we will definitely, make sure that we use the resources that are available.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Cushing, for bringing that forward. Okay, moving on. Item 9, correspondence for action. 9.1.1, invitation from the town of Yarmouth regarding Christmas tree lighting. You all have that in your package. What is the pleasure of council? I guess the question would be is, I'll turn the floor over to the deputy warden. You have the
Wait a minute,
floor.
I'd just like to say, thank you to the town of Yarmouth for sending the invitation. I'm assuming we're reciprocating with an invitation for our tree lighting and so forth. So looking forward to kicking off the festive season, and Christmas is, I think, and Hanukkah are folks, many folks' favorite time of the year. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to meeting the folks around those events.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. The Town Hall, the invitation was for this Friday, November the 26th, remarks at 6 p.m. The countdown to follow, it says here in the invitation, join us in the kicking off of the holiday season, enjoy caroling, hot chocolate, and stroll through our beautiful Frost Park. We hope you can join us. We may even hear a visit from Santa. So I'd just like to make note that I will be attending that ceremony that day. So I believe it's an invitation not only to council, but all residents across the Tri-Counties. Councilor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the town of Yarmouth for extending this invitation. Can, maybe through you to this, Madam CAO, we could just have an update on our tree lighting, when that's going to be for the viewing public? I think it's been posted on social media, but just for those who may not have seen that.
Sure, so it's Friday, December the 3rd at 6 p.m. We will be requiring vaccinations for the indoor events, correct? Cookie dough. So no indoor events, so everything will be outdoors, so, rain, snow, hail, sleet, shine, yep. We normally receive a donation of our tree as well, like the town of Yarmouth, from a local landowner. And this year, we received a phone call. It was interesting. We received a phone call from some property owners who were doing some property maintenance, and they had two fairly large trees, Christmas trees, I'll call them, that needed to be removed. And somebody had called dibs on one, and I had already put the Director of Recreation in touch with the landowners. Anyway, long story short, I guess our tree is a green tree. We're reusing a tree that was kind of problematic for a property owner. They were concerned about it falling on their home, I guess. And so anyway, it's not coming from the Mr. Grimshaw, who normally donates the tree to us, but we have let him know why we didn't come this year, and in an effort to help out these other property owners. So the tree is, all the plans are in the works for the tree to be erected on the front lawn as usual.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9.1.2, report for funding request from Camp Peniel. Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in this piece of correspondence, Council, you have the required report on a contribution you made to Camp Peniel out of this fiscal year. Also in there, though, is a request for a contribution in the coming fiscal year. So normally what we do in this instance is we make a motion to refer it to the budget, and the Community and Economic Development Officer will work with them to get the formal application complete.
What is the wishes of council? Councilor Lauren Cushing.
I'll make a motion that we move this request to our next year's budget for grant application.
Not for approval, just to forward it to the
Yeah, okay. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, moving on, item 9.2.1, strategic plan. Sorry, that's for information. We have in front of us three for information, strategic plan for Associate Deputy Minister Jason Hollett, a new collective agreement for the RCMP, and acknowledgement from the Knights of Columbus and the Yarmouth Columbians Club. Any questions? Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the CAO, 9.2.2, the new collective agreement for RCMP members and reservists. I know that will have financial implications for us in the municipality, and I'm certain, I think that it was discussed maybe at NSFM, being one of their priorities, but do you have any idea what the process will look like? What our financial contribution will end up being over and above? Any information you could provide would be helpful.
I'm curious too, Councillor Horwath, for sure. Normally this time of year is when we start to think about getting the notifications on our mandatory contributions for the next fiscal year. I feel like dealing with this issue is probably going to happen a little bit differently this year. The details on policing, we don't know if the retroactive element is going to be dealt with in the same way the moving forward element is going to be dealt with. The correspondence leads me to believe it's a negotiation that's happening between the federal government and the province. So I had an AMA board meeting last week. We asked the question. There was no update from the work that the committee was doing. So I think between the AMA and the NSFM, as soon as we know something, or the department through Mary Lynn Hay or the Associate Deputy Minister Mark Peck, as soon as there's something to know, we'll know. I don't believe there'll be any consultation or engagement on it. I think it's going to be a notification.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And also, that item was brought up in the Mayors and Wardens meeting with Municipal Affairs Minister John Lord in regards to how it's going to affect our budgets down the road, and he had to stop there, Paul LaFleche and Mr. Peck. They had no answers for us there either, so that's something that certainly Mayors and Wardens all across the province is looking at, because we don't know how it's going to affect us. So, thank you very much for that question. Moving on to item number 10, reports from legal entities. I'll start off. The Yarmouth International Airport Committee is meeting next week, and I can't remember if I notified council at all, but we currently have a full slate of board members for the first time that I can remember sitting on that. We have the 3 new citizen reps are Viola Robinson, Dean Fuller, and Dale Royal. There's certainly a diverse background in the citizen appointments. We're looking forward. We're also planning to have a meeting with Celtic Air in regards to right-sizing the airport, which was a mandate by the 3 owning municipal partners that fund this, and hopefully we'll have an update from Celtic Air on where they stand. During these COVID times, it's been very difficult to get them down here because we all know the travel restrictions across the province. But I'm very excited to chair that committee with the new members there. Got a lot of work to do, and that's my report on the Yarmouth International Airport. Any other reports in any other committees in legal entities? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 10.2, advisory committees. Is there any reports there? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you have the floor.
Yes, and as most people are aware, we've had a PAC, Planning Advisory Committee, series of agendas of late, and I guess most importantly, tomorrow beginning at 10 a.m. there'll be a series of presentations about or around aquaculture and in the event there are, I think, 5 in total, and they are on our website and on our Facebook page, and so folks can watch those on Facebook Live tomorrow if they wish.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an update on the Accessibility Advisory Committee. We've been working hard. Our plan is due to the province the beginning of April 2022, and we're just in the final stages of putting the finishing touches on an advertisement for a community engagement session, which will, am I allowed to speak about that? I should have asked if I was allowed to speak about that before.
Absolutely.
Okay. because it isn't published yet, but we've been proofreading the final draft. So it will be on Wednesday, December the 8th at 7 p.m. via Zoom, and there'll be some promotional material going out on how you can link to that. And we are hoping that as many residents that can join online to have a discussion with us. We've already done a survey, and staff have worked with some people in the community for focus groups, but we're hoping that we can have some more community engagement on what accessibility areas, barriers, needs for improvement that we can, take into consideration for writing our final plan. So that will be December 8th at 7 via Zoom, so you can watch social media, and we'll have the details out soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Patty Durkee, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to report that with the Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee, that the Community Navigator Oversight Committee has snagged an hour of time with Kevin Orrell, who's the CEO of the new Office of Recruitment. So lots of great discussion will be going on. They have a plan for what they want to talk to about them. One of the particular item is certainly, what are the plans, what direction are they going, how can we help? He is really impressed with what has gone on in this area thus far, so we'll look forward to hearing more information about that.
Thank you very much, and Councillor Durkee, thank you for all the work you do on that committee, and I do like to say thank you for showing up. I was unable to attend the opening of the residence out there that the credit union helped build along with other community groups, so thank you very much. Councillor Durkee?
Oh, it was my absolute pleasure, and I just want to say that that I was talking to Lloyd McDougall, whose son is in the process of becoming a doctor, and he's been traveling all over Canada doing placements as a student, and he said he has never seen anything like what we have put together for a doctor's residence in all of his travels, and he visited actually and had a sneak peek and was really impressed. So it's really nice that we have something to offer residents, people who are coming and doing locums, and students.
Who all attended? I know you did, Councillor Durkee. Councillor Hilton, I do believe, had attended. Were you there? It was, Councillor Hurlburt and Deputy Warden were there. Thank you very much. Madam CEO? I was there. Oh, you were there as well. Like I said, I apologize. I had work commitments that time, but I'm very glad to see that we had a very good showing from our council for a very important project that only helps the doctor issues that we're having here. So thank you very much for that. Any more reports under advisory? Hearing none, item number 10.3, ad hoc. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier today, our committee, part of our committee, our CAO, myself, and our two consultants, one from Englobe and one from Upland, Adrian Tian and Ryan McLean, made a presentation to update the town of Yarmouth on the Lake Milo Active Transportation Plan, and Mayor Mood was there, CAO Jeff Gashu was there, and the town engineer Mark Brophy was there. It was important for us. We felt that we should update the town on what we're doing, because not only citizens from the municipality of Yarmouth will be using that, but also citizens from the town of Yarmouth, plus citizens from wherever will be using that. So it's a great project. It was well presented. They had showed both options, which we have seen ourselves. So which was good. So our plan is to keep the town updated on how we go ahead, because we are their neighbors, and we want them to know what's going on. Thank you.
Councillor Hurlburt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Neither of these three am I on, but I'm wondering if there's any update on the Mariner Center expansion from the Mariner Center Expansion Committee?
Okay, please repeat the question. The Mariner Center expansion and
Is there any update from the Mariner Center Expansion Committee?
Actually, we had a meeting today. We had an update on where the file stands. Right now, as the chair, Nicole Albright, said, right now we're in limbo in regards to the application. It's before the province and they're currently scoring it. As of now, there was a issue, no, sorry, not an issue. We spoke about the go-forward plan and the RFP that was put out for the fundraising. Currently, the Mariner Center does not have that document ready, and we plan on meeting tentatively for December the 15th for our next meeting to possibly review that document from Durham. I think that's all I had to report. That meeting was very short. I was on the road and like sort of lost the thing. I think it was only about 15 or 20 minutes. But that's where we stand right now. But currently the application is before the province, and I guess it's moving forward when we wait. All right, no more ad hoc committees. Item number 11, Warden's report. You all have that in front of you. I will have to say that there's going to be an event in regards to dumping day out at the Cape Forshue Lighthouse. Usually it's tentatively scheduled for this Monday, all depending on how the winds are and when the fishers are going to be moving. But I am scheduled to go on the radio with Kevin Northup on the radio sometime in the morning. I guess the people start showing up there at 5:30, and they'll be broadcasting it live till approximately 7:30. I do believe David Oley is going to be speaking. I can't remember, is it Minister Reverend Newell that's going to be doing the blessing the fleet. It's going to be a good time out there. I do believe that if to go into the building, that you have to present your COVID-19 vaccination certificate and social distance and wear your mask out there wherever you can. I do believe also that they are going to climb the light, but the first pictures are going to be reserved for photographers, professional photographers. But I do believe if the public wants to go up, that they have to reserve a time in that regards, and hopefully I get that all right, because I'm only going by memory.
Yep, and it's all on the Cape Forshue website.
Yes, and it's all on the Cape Forshue website on the festivities and things going on out there. So that's my report. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm glad you're going to be attending the Dumping Day event down at Cape Forshue Lighthouse. Personally, I will not be there this year. I'm going to be attending our Chicago Point when the boats leave from there. We got 22 boats here, so I'm going to be there to encourage them on and safe journey. So, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. For someone that's never been out to the Cape Forshue Light Station during that dumping day, it's very interesting to see the boats come from the Chebogue River, Pinckney's Point, Chicago Point, and even far down is the boats going off. You can just see them, as long as the light is right, just see them coming from even farther than that little harbor. It's quite interesting to see, especially if you stay there for a while. Every time I've been out there, even though it doesn't, the weather, they say it's not blowing, or if it's not blowing out in the county, out in Carleton area where I am, you go on the Cape Forshue Rock during one of those events, it's blowing. My hat's off to anyone who does that for a livelihood. You certainly deserve all the credit for putting your lives on the line, because that is a dangerous occupation. So thank you very much. Moving on to in-camera items. We have 4 in-camera items, so a motion to move into camera is in order. Moved by Councillor Lauren Cushion, seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert to go into camera. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.